Hello everybody, this is Mega Goal number 5, third secondary, Unit 2, Rags to Riches. And this is the first lesson in Unit number 1, Unit number 2, which is Listen and Discuss, pages 20 and 21. So we will start right now with Unit number 2. We have already covered Unit number 1. غطينا الوحدة الأولى and today inshallah we will start with Unit number 2. Let's take a look at the objectives for today's lesson. We should listen to answer the questions. Number 2, read and give the meaning of the new words. And the third one, we should discuss the lesson. نستمع عشان نجاوب على بعض الكلمات، نقرأ ونعطي معاني الكلمات الصحيح، والآخر هدف راح نناقش الدرس of course بالطبع يعني. Before we start, I'd like to explain to you the meaning of this unit's title, which is Rags to Riches. Okay, Rags to riches is an expression that refers to any situation where a person goes from being poor to being rich. يعني يشير إلى أي موقف، مثلا أن شخص مثلا كان جدا فقير وتحول إلى جدا غني، خلاص and from being poor to being wealthy or being rich. Okay, so this is the meaning of rags to riches. Okay, rags means خرق بالية، from wearing rags of clothes to being rich. So this is the meaning of Rags to Riches, which is the title of unit number 2. Please move on to pages number 20 and 21. Before we start this lesson, I'd like to introduce the new words to you. كلمات الجديدة. Philanthropist. Philanthropist. Excelled. Prominent. Reputation. Reputation. Impoverished. Impoverished. Now, before we start listening or before we start reading, do you know any person who from not having much money to being wealthy? Do you know anyone who had built himself from scratch? أشخاص بنوا نفسهم من الصفر. From not having any money to being very rich or wealthy. أغنياء. تحولوا من الفقر المقذع إلى الغنى. If you do, please leave them down in the comment box below. اتركوا لي في بوكس التعليقات عن أشخاص تحولوا من الفقر إلى الغنى. Now let's move on. Now I have another question for you, which is, what qualities do you think a person needs to excel in life and be successful? Okay, do you know some of the qualities that makes a person successful and to excel in life? تعرفون الصفات الشخصية اللي تخلي الشخص ناجح وعشان يعني يتفوق في الحياة. I have an example, for example. One of the qualities that a person should have in order to be successful is to be determined. إنه يكون جدا إن الشخص يكون مصمم أو يعني عازم، determined to success، إنه عازم على النجاح. Okay, and also one of the qualities that a person should have is to be patient، إنه يكون صبور. Okay, so these two examples are some of the qualities that a person needs to excel in life and be successful. And if you have other qualities, you can leave them down in the comment box below. إذا عندكم بعض الصفات اللي تجعل من الشخص ناجح، اتركوها لي في بوكس التعليقات. Now let's move on. As for today, we will be listening to an audio talking about 4 characters. راح نسمع إلى أوديو إلى مقطع يتكلم عن 4 شخصيات. خلاص. These are one of the greatest philanthropists. خلاص and very successful businessmen. يعني رجال محبين للخير وكذلك رجال برضو أعمال ناجحين. Okay. The first one is about Amancio Ortega. And if I might ask you, have you heard about this person? سمعتوا عن هذا الشخص? Okay. Maybe you have and maybe you haven't. Right now I'd like you to listen to the audio, and then later on I'm gonna explain to you or summarize what you have listened to. راح ألخص لكم اللي سمعتوا. So the first one, we will be listening to an audio talking about Amancio Ortega. Please move on to pages 20 and 21.
Unit 2, Rags to Riches. Pages 20 and 21. 1. Listen and discuss.
Amancio Ortega. Industry. Retail clothing. Country of citizenship. Spain. Amancio Ortega is the founder and chairman of a company that owns many stores, including the enormously popular international clothing store, Zara. Now Spain's richest man, Ortega is the son of a railroad worker and had no formal higher education. When Ortega was 13, he worked as a delivery boy for a shirt maker and later became the manager of a clothing store. He began making clothing in his living room and selling it to local stores. Ortega had an ability to predict what styles were going to be popular and to create these styles with inexpensive materials. In 1975, Ortega opened his first Zara store. Zara gained a reputation for selling designer fashions at reasonable prices. Today, Ortega's company has more than 4,000 stores in 71 countries.
Yes, so we will stop here and then we will go back to the slide. Now, right now, you had listened to an audio talking about Amancio Ortega. His industry is in the retail clothing, بيع الملابس بالتجزئة. And his country of citizenship, Spain, so he is Spanish. يعني مواطنته إسبانيا, so he is Spanish, Espani. So he is the founder of Zara. You know Zara? I'll explain to you in a bit. So Amancio Ortega is one of the men who went from having nothing to being rich. من الأشخاص اللي من كانوا فقراء جدا وأصبحوا أغنياء. So Amancio Ortega is the founder and chairman of a company that owns many stores, including the popular international clothing store Zara. هو طبعا شخص هو اللي أوجد طبعا زارا وعنده شركات بالإضافة إلى زارا. خلاص. Now Amancio Ortega wasn't born rich, ما ولد غني. So Amancio Ortega is the son of a railroad worker, okay, and he had no formal higher education. خلاص. يعني أباه كان يشتغل the road worker, okay, as you could see in the picture, and he had no formal higher education. ما تلقى تعليم عالي. When he was 13, he worked as a delivery boy for a shirt maker and later became the manager of a clothing store. بدايته كانت في عمر 13. اشتغل كعامل توصيل حق shirt maker, صانع ملابس أو صانع أقمصة, and later he became the manager. وبعد ذلك أصبح رئيس يعني clothing store, محل بيع ملابس. Okay. Now Amancio Ortega, he began making clothing in his living room and selling it to local store. بدأ من غرفة معيشته وبدأ يبيعها إلى المحلات المحلية. Okay. He created popular styles with inexpensive materials. Okay, طبعا شو اللي يخلي زارا very popular إنه هو يعني he came up with the idea, يعني أتى بفكرة إنه هو يصنع ملابس من خامات يعني ملابس محبوبة أو مثلا مشهورة أو popular مثل ما نقول باستخدام inexpensive material, يعني مواد مو غالية. خلاص. Though that they are popular style. Ortega opened his first Zara store in 1975. هذا عام 1975. He opened his first Zara store. Zara gained a reputation for selling designer fashions at reasonable prices. طبعا زارا معروف إن ال prices of the items there are at a very reasonable prices. يعني أسعارهم منطقية. خلاص. Okay, they are not expensive and not cheap. They are very reasonable. منطقية. Now today, Ortega's company has more than 4,000 stores in 71 countries. So Zara is spread worldwide. يعني زارا أفرعها منتشرة في العالم. So this is the story of the first man, who is Amancio Ortega, who is the founder of Zara. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, who is a Saudi businessman, رجل أعمال سعودي, who is Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel. Have you heard about Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Get ready to listen to the audio and follow up as you listen. Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel.
Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel. Industry, business. Country of citizenship, Saudi Arabia. A great philanthropist and prominent businessman, Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel, president of ALJ, runs one of the world's largest car dealerships, with operations in the Middle East, UK, Central Asia, and China. A leading figure in corporate social responsibility, he has initiated a series of initiatives against poverty and has contributed greatly to the government's Saudiization program in the kingdom by promoting thousands of jobs every year through the ALJ community services programs. Abdul Latif Jameel is an MIT alumni, member of the Board of Trustees, and dedicated supporter of the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, JPAL. He has been named Saudi Volunteer of the Year for 2012 in recognition of the services offered by the ALJCI in Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Arab world.
Okay, so right now you had listened to an audio talking about Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel. His industry is in the business and his country of citizenship is Saudi Arabia. So he's a Saudi businessman, رجل أعمال سعودي. Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel, a great philanthropist and prominent businessman. رجل أعمال ومحب للخير. Okay, ومشهور كذلك. He is the president of ALJ, Abdul Latif Jameel, which runs one of the world's largest car dealerships. يعني تعرفون شركة عبد اللطيف جميل اللي هو شركة معروفة في عالم السيارات. Okay, اللي هي بيع السيارات. Car dealerships. Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel, he created a series of initiatives against poverty. يعني هو خلق فرص أو مبادرات عفوا يعني عنده مبادرات ضد الفقر. خلاص. Now he also contributed to the government's Saudiization program in the kingdom by promoting thousands of jobs every year through the ALJ. Now if you heard ممكن سمعتوا عن صندوق عبد اللطيف جميل. طبعا بالإضافة إلى صندوق عبد اللطيف جميل اللي هو يوفر آلاف الوظائف سنويا، برضو محمد بن عبد اللطيف جميل برضو ساعد في برنامج السعودة. Okay, so this is why Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel is considered to be a philanthropist. يعني من الناس اللي هم محبين للخير. Okay, now he has been named Saudi Volunteer of the Year for 2012 in recognition of the services offered by the ALGCI in Saudi and the rest of the Arab worlds. يعني هو حصل على لقب المتطوع السعودي للعام في عام 2012 طبعا كريكوجنيشن، يعني عشان كتقدير إلى أعماله في السعودية وكذلك في العالم العربي. So right now you had listened to an audio talking about Mohammad Abdul Latif Jameel, and right now we will continue, and right now we will be listening to a Chinese businessman, رجل أعمال صيني, Li Keqing. Okay, so get ready to listen, and later on we will discuss it.
Li Keqing. Industry, business, country of citizenship, China. Li was born into an impoverished family in China in 1928. When he was 15, his father died, forcing Li to leave high school so that he could work to support his family. He took a job in a plastics company where he would work 16 hours a day. At this company, Li used to assemble plastic flowers. By 1950, Li had started his own plastics manufacturing company. His company prospered, which led Li to expand his business into many different fields. However, his successes are not all monetary. Li Keqing has a reputation for being honest and generous. In fact, he is one of Asia's most prominent philanthropists and has announced plans to donate 1/3 of his wealth to charity.
Okay, so right now you had listened to an audio talking about Li Keqing, his industry, business, and the country of citizenship, China. Okay, so Li Keqing is an example of one of the people who went from rags to riches. من الأشخاص المثال على الأشخاص اللي كانوا ما يملكون ولا شيء وأصبحوا أثرياء. Okay, now Li was born into an impoverished family in China 1928. Okay, ولد في عائلة فقيرة في الصين, and when he was 15 his father died. توفى أبوه وهو عمره 15 سنة, and he was forced to leave school in order to work to support his family. خلاص, طبعا he dropped out of school, ترك الدراسة في عمر 15 because his father died and he wanted to work to support his family. اشتغل عشان يعني يدعم عائلته. By 1950, Li had started his own plastic manufacturing company. Sorry, I forgot to mention something. نسيت أذكر حاجة, إن he worked in a plastic company. Okay, يشتغل في شركة بلاستيكيات. By the year 1950, Li had started his own plastic manufacturing business or company. فتح له مصنع أو شركة للبلاستيكيات. His company prospered and Li expanded his business. يعني الحين مو بس إنه ازدهر عمله, وبرضه الحين اشتغل في مجالات مختلفة. Okay. Now Li has a reputation for being honest and generous. يعني سمعته إنه هو very honest and generous. خلاص, جدا شخص يعني كريم وكذلك صادق. He has announced plans to donate 1/3 of his wealth to charity. يعني أعلن أنه هو راح يتبرع راح يتبرع ثلث ثروته إلى الأعمال الخيرية. Okay, now let's move on. Okay, I'm guessing that all of you know this person. معظمكم أو majority of you know this person, who is Stephen Paul Jobs. Okay, he is the founder of the Apple company. هو الشخص اللي أوجد شركة Apple. Okay, now let's get ready. طبعا this person has passed away. He died, توفى in 2011. But he's also an example of people who went from having nothing to being rich, as as the title of this lesson suggests, rags to riches. طبعا أنا أعيد عنوان الوحدة all over عشان تحفظونها معي. rags to riches.
Stephen Paul Jobs, 1955 to 2011. Industry, computer design. Country of citizenship, U.S. Stephen Paul Jobs was born in 1955 and adopted into a working-class family. He grew up in what later became Silicon Valley. He dropped out of college because he could not afford to pay his tuition. In the late 70s, he co-founded Apple with Steve Wozniak and others, and proceeded to develop and market the first successful lines of personal computers. He eventually resigned from Apple over an argument with the board of directors in 1984 and founded Next. Apple's buyout of Next in 1997 brought Jobs back to Apple as its CEO. He was the largest individual shareholder of the Walt Disney Company and a member of the board. Jobs was admired by many for his entrepreneurial skills, his foresight, and his ability to create and support products that were both functional and aesthetically pleasing.
Yes, so right now you had listened to an audio talking about Stephen Jobs. And his industry was the computer design. His country of citizenship is as you could see, the USA, which is the United States of America. Now let me explain to you or summarize what you had listened to so far. So Stephen Paul Jobs, 1955-2011. So he was born in 1955 and he was an adopted child. يعني شخص كان متبنى into a working class family. يعني عائلته كانت متوسطة الحال. He dropped out of college because he couldn't pay his tuition. So he didn't finish his education, or he didn't get a bachelor degree. ما حصل على درجة البكالوريوس because he dropped out of college لأنه طبعا ترك أو انسحب من الدراسة بسبب عدم مقدرته على دفع التويشن which is اللي هي الأقساط أو اللي هي المصاريف اللي مطلوب إنهم يطلبون منهم إنها يدفعونها للجامعة tuition. Now let's move on. Now in the late 70s he co-founded Apple and developed the first successful lines of personal computer. في السبعينات في نهاية السبعينات أوجد شركة Apple, of course with the help of others, كان مع أشخاص آخرين, and he developed the first successful lines of personal computer. Now this is the first Apple computer. أول أعتقد أنه هو أول كمبيوتر من شركة Apple. Now Stephen Paul Jobs actually he resigned from Apple in 1984 and founded Next. استقال من شركة Apple في عام 1984 and founded another company which is called Next. Apple's buy out Next and brought Jobs back to Apple as its CEO. خلاص طبعا مثل ما انتم شايفين هو استقال من أبل وأوجد شركة أخرى وبعدين رجع الأبل في عام 1997 وكذلك اشترت الشركة اللي أوجدها. Okay, and they brought Stephen Jobs to Apple as its CEO اللي هو المدير التنفيذي. Now Stephen was admired for his foresights and creativity. خلاص يعني كثيرين يحبون ستيفن لأنه كان عنده حس في الإبداع وكذلك كانت عنده بصيرة وكانت عنده جدا يعني مهارات فكثير كانوا admired him. خلاص اللي هو كانوا يحبونه. So he passed away in 2011 and I'd like to share with you a quote, okay, which is said by Stephen Jobs himself. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. وقتك محدود فلا تضيعه انك تعيش حياة شخص آخر. Okay, so you could tell right now why Stephen Jobs is admired by many people. الآن تقدرون تعرفون ليش ان Stephen Jobs كثير يحبونه. Okay, now let's move on to the quick check. Okay, I'm gonna do this one with you and the rest of the question you can do it with your teacher. You are asked to complete each sentence with a word from the box. And you remember that we have already explained to you, or I have already explained to you, the meaning of these words. Let me read them one more time for you. خليني أقرأها لكم مرة ثانية. Excelled, philanthropist, reputation, impoverished, prominent. I'd recommend right now that you pause the video. ممكنكم توقفون الفيديو. Take your time. Try to read the sentences. and try to answer them by yourself. حاولوا تجاوبون عليها يعني وقفوا الفيديو حاولوا تجاوبون عليها. Anyways, let's do this all together. Not only was Jack an excellent student in high school, but he is in sports as well. Excelled. Number 2, he has a for being one of the greatest doctors in the field of neurosurgery. Reputation. Number 3, my professor is an economist who is often quoted in magazines. Prominent. Number 4, the charity I donated to help to build school in impoverished areas. Businessman and Sulaiman Al-Rajihi gives millions of dollars to charities each year. Philanthropist. Now we have reached right now the end of the lesson. I hope that you liked it. If you do, please leave me a comment in the comment box below. Don't forget to share the video and subscribe and leave me a thumb up. But before I end this lesson, I'd like you to take a minute or two to reflect on these stories that you had listened to. أبغاكم تاخذون دقيقة أو دقيقتين وتفكرون في القصص اللي سمعتوهم. And you can also learn of these stories. ممكن برضو تتعلمون من هذه الحقائق. And what I mean by reflect is to deeply think of what made them successful, for example. ممكن تفكرون بعمق إيش الأشياء اللي خلتهم يكونون أشخاص ناجحين في الحياة. Maybe one day you will be one of them. ممكن يوم من الأيام تكونون منهم. I'll see you in the next lesson. Till then, goodbye.